Okay, before I put the center pole in, I want to show this, how this is reinforced. A lot of tents will give way because somebody misses this ring and doesn't get the center pole in correctly. That can be a bad thing. Okay. And they just stopped making noise next door, so I might be able to finish the rest of this video. Here we go. Okay, everybody. I thought I would give you a tour of my tent now that it's set up in the backyard. You know, this is a tent that I do pennsic in. It is missing the little finial on top. That's somewhere in the car, I think, but otherwise this is it. It has this flap. This is in case I put a sunshade on it. I don't have the sunshade presently. The floor is not staked. There's no ground cloth in it right now, as I've already cleaned that and put it away. And the floor is not, the walls are not staked out yet, and I may not do that because I'm going to be trying to clean it and let it dry. So I want that bottom flap under the seam there actually is to fold in, kind of like this, and then your ground cloth sits on top of that. But I'm gonna have to clean that. I gotta clean this. But yeah, this is, and I showed how that works. Yeah, I got this tent from somebody who did it for their kids. This was their children's tent. So they painted it all pretty. For those of you who know me, realize that having a giant starburst and bright blue and red and circus colored things, I mean, down to the dog bones and the ropes, and the helicopters flying overhead, pretty much on spot for me. There's a door in the front, a door in the back, or a door on both sides if you turn it sideways. I guess it depends on how you look at things. And let me show you how this whole thing goes together and what you do with it. For storage, traveling kind of thing, just so you know, the whole thing fits in this tote except for the poles. So that is pretty much a standard, like, Rubbermaid easy carry handle portage thing, whatever that is. You can figure it out. The whole pavilion fits in that. If you remember my how to measure your tent video, this is one of the things to consider. It is a 10-foot square at the top here, but they are sloped walls. So when this gets staked out, it is 12 foot by 12 foot, with the corners being kind of cut off. That is actually that angle. They would be moved out more, but that is the angle. And then you have to have your ropes and stakes out to pull the walls out. So that is going to be something that's going to take up some of your space. Inside, you have 5 poles. Yeah, one in each corner plus the center pole. The center pole comes apart. There is this centerpiece here that slides, and this is cut, if you can kind of see in here, is cut at an angle, so they wedge themselves in, so this won't move while it's up. The center pole is a bit of a mixed blessing. It does make for a very tall roof, which means standing up, but putting a bed in here, it can be tricky. We can fit a queen size air mattress to one side of the pole, but it will touch, and it's less than convenient that way. I use a single person cot on one side, and Triona will use a queen size mattress on the other, so her entire side of the tent is taken up by the mattress. But that's no big deal. Cool thing about a center pole are things like this. This is called a gravity hook. And you take this and you hook it around the pole like that and let go. And then you can hang your lanterns here, or, you know, I've get my cloak on there, anything, and it's not going anywhere as long as that's like that. And these will fit on my side poles also. That's why they're a gravity pole. If there's nothing hanging on them, there's nothing to hold them in place. So just putting them on the pole and leaving them there, not always great, but for the most part, I almost always have one of these things hanging on the pole with a lantern on it, so I don't have to go looking for a lantern. And yes, they're battery powered lanterns. I know it's not period, I don't care. I put them on little red flicker so it looks like a candle. LEDs can do that. Leave the good lamps for outside in camp. Keep the battery powered stuff in here. Another thing you're going to have to deal with a pavilion are the spikes, the tent stakes. These are the small ones. For comparison, that's a regular carpenter's hammer, and that's the small stakes. That's for staking out the walls. When I pull the walls out, that's what stakes them down. The large spikes are significantly bigger, but they're holding up a lot more weight, so it's worthwhile. They all go in their own separate bag. Separate bags is a fantastic idea. Don't stick any of this rusty crap in with your good tent unless you want your tent to look kind of like that. You don't want that. So I have a separate bag for the ground cloth, I have a separate bag for the stakes, and then the tent goes into tote. Okay, the person who did this did a couple of things that I think are pretty cool. This is how most pavilion ropes go, is you have your dog bone. This is what keeps your tension on your rope, and it goes up to the thing, and that pulls your tent and goes down to the stake. Most people end up looping the rope around the stake and then have a knot tied at the top, like a eye knot at the top. The people who did this tent did two things I find interesting. The first is they added a ring to the end of this loop. Now this is the loop going from the dog bone down to the stake. Now a lot of people just loop this rope around the stake. Well, that's a rusty, sharp piece of metal. Ropes don't like that. This is a brass ring. It's smooth. It doesn't care. So, very cool idea. The other thing they did that I think is pretty cool is they just tied a loop, and this side is the other dog bone, goes down to the other stake. So instead of having a separate rope and a separate rope, and a separate rope, it's one rope. So the rope is, starts here, goes down to the ring, back through the dog bone, up to the loop with a knot, back down through the dog bone, through the ring, and back up here to this knot. I worked for a carnival. We had separate ropes for each one of these, but we were very hard on things, and we were replacing ropes all the time. In that situation, this would not work. But considering this is, 2 weeks at Pennsic and then once a random weekend for an event, these ropes are going to last a really long time, especially with that little brass ring. So, and not a lot of wear and tear up here. So, that means instead of having 8 ropes to lose, I only have 4 ropes to lose. So, actually a pretty good deal. I think it's clever. Can't say I thought of it, but I think it's clever. Okay, for those of you who don't know how a dog bone works, these are dog bones. It's a tensioner, holds tension on the rope. You see the bend here? That's holding up all the weight of the tent. That's all it has to do. So to adjust your tension, that tension goes up there, and this rope is what holds this edge tight. So if I loosen this up, let's bet. If I loosen this up, see, that's all I have to do to loosen it. You'll see that now the tent is kind of droopy on that side. This tension helps hold that up. So what you do is you pull on this rope to pull up your tension. And then you realize you can't do this while holding your phone. And then you pull the dog bone back up, and that pulls in your tension. I have no way of doing this one-handed. So, pulling your tension. Nope. There we go. Let's try it. So I grab this rope, pull this rope, grab this, bring it up. I find it easier if I grab the tent and pull it, and I pull this up like this, and that, see how it just automatically like pulls down? Done. It's tight. There's no messing with knots or trying to get that to trying to, you know, do a slide knot or something like that. If you know how to tie those knots, that's great. I do, but I don't remember what it's called, so I don't use it very often. This is much easier, and it's always there. So that's a dog bone. That's how you get rid of sloppy, saggy. Also, the further this angle is out, fire truck, the tighter and easier it is to keep your tent straight. That can be a problem at pennsic. I have the tendency to have these staked really sharp angles, and that makes it much harder to use. So the further out you can get these things, the better it is for your tent, the better it looks. See, I can pull this one in a bit. Let me tighten that up. Okay, another thing to remember when you're putting in your stakes, this goes for anything you stake down. Notice how the stake is not going straight up and down. It's going at a close to 90-degree angle from where the rope is pulling from. So the stake, whoops, is going diagonally down, not straight down into the ground. And there go the landscapers making noise again. So kind of hard to see, probably kind of hard to hear at this point, but you see how this one is a little more up and down due to bad spacing and bad hammering on my part. I would change this if I was going to be in this tent overnight or for any amount of time. I would change this. I'm just doing it long enough to dry the tent, so it probably won't be a big deal. I realize that one's pretty bad too. That one's kind of straight up and down also. I would want that at a better angle. I also didn't drive it in the ground very far. I would have driven it further, but again, this is only for the afternoon or maybe till tomorrow morning, and I'll put it away. Yeah, clean up the bird poop. It's bad for your tent, and it's a pain in the ass to get off. I've scrubbed this one quite a bit. We'll see how much more I gotta do. How did it do that? Can I do that again? No. My phone started automatically. I have an automatic start. That's weird. Okay, I only did that once. It's very strange. Anyway, welcome to the inside of the pavilion. I have the yankiest tripod set up right now. This is the ring light from downstairs in the studio, and it's leaning against the pavilion because it cannot stand up in the grass. So, as you might be able to hear, it's raining, so I'm not packing the pavilion today. It's also a little, you know, saggy because I haven't adjusted the ropes since I've put them up and showed you how to adjust them. So I just show you, you know, nice and dry, no problems. Something about this pavilion that's different from some others is you'll also notice that there is really just a band along here that helps hold that, and then the walls, I can't take the walls off. So cleaning this pavilion can be interesting because everything has to be done at once and it all has to be put away at once. Otherwise it is a big canvas bag with a pole in the middle holding it up. It's really what it works out to. I was hoping to show you how to tension the ropes better with the tripod, but it's raining out. I'm not leaving my phone out in the rain while I do this in the rain. So that's the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Guys, you've been great. Thank you for watching the videos. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And talk to you later. See you at war. There is something kind of happy about being on the inside of a dry tent while it's raining on the outside. I just like it. Unfortunately, it's also like 2 in the afternoon, so I can't like just take a nap or anything. So here we are. Oh, I need to clean that.